Blog Talk Radio.
Power in the people. Power in the people. Power in the people. Power in the people. We gon' fight, we gon' shout for our rights without a doubt. We gon' love, we gon' sing, we gon' rise and do our thing. We gon' stand and join hands, united as one, we're in demand. Hear our voice, young and old, fight the lies, let the truth be told. Power in the people. Power in the people.
What's up, family? Hope all's well. This is the Build 720. Today's topic is religion versus spirituality, enlightenment or entrapment. I'm rolling solo today. So on that note, I'm going to be dedicating this show to Dr. Yosef Ben-Jochannan, Ashe. And I'm sure he's chilling with the ancestors right now, doing his thing, watching over us. This particular clip, I'm not exactly sure where this and when this speech was made, but it was probably somewhere in the 1990s. Title is something like African Roots of Our Beliefs in Science. It's about a 10 to 13 minute clip. So once again, the title is Religion versus Spirituality, Enlightenment or Entrapment. The call-in number is 516-666-9835. That's 516-666-9835. So let's go ahead and sit back and let's hear Dr. Ben.
I want to express my appreciation for your having invited me. And secondly, I think it may be the first time since my bout in the hospital. The subject for this afternoon is not a very light one, but I need to make certain qualifications and establish some ground rules for this presentation. Of late, it would seem that brothers and sisters find it difficult to hear anything about Islam that doesn't satisfy their curiosity about Islam.
Right.
So many of us can't separate being an Arab from being a Muslim. So many of us cannot distinguish between our religious belief and history. And so many of us want our history, or that which we believe in, to be perfectly pure, whatever that means. And anyone else's completely corrupted. I am not a Christian. I am not a Jew. I am not a Muslim. So you don't need to ask this later on. And I have no intent of being either, because neither means anything to me. And all three have been my enemies.
I hear that. I hear that.
And all three are still my enemies.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, when the Africans, and you could have no doubt that I am an African, you may find difficulty with you being an African, and you don't know it, but everybody else knows you're an African. Even your mirror knows that you're an African.
All right.
Now, understanding those things, we can then speak to each other. But first, let me give some dates. These dates are which I'm going to base my presentation to you. And there have to be some other facts, which I'm sure you will not deny when I reveal them. In the first place, we have to get rid of a certain notion. And that notion is that mankind started with two people called Adam and Eve. I mean, we could get rid of that nonsense immediately. If you don't need that, gentleman just came in with the gray here. That's a little more than I. That is my associate, Professor George.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As a matter of fact, I should say I am his associate because I do very little in the office now. He runs the office, I'm stepping down. Time is catching up with me, and it's pretty close behind him. But, as I was saying, Adam and Eve is a concept by a certain group of people in the world. The Jewish people. I'm not speaking of the Jewish people today. A group of people no earlier than 1675 BCE, before the Common Era, starting with a person called Abraham. And this Abraham was in a place called Acre, around an area called Chaldea, near the city of Ur. Before that, there is not a single Jewish person. There is no God named Jehovah either. You have no God named Jehovah. You have no concept of Adam and Eve before the first Jew. Jews brought the concept of Adam and Eve, Jehovah God, and that the world was made in 7 days. That's strictly Jewish. Anybody that adopted it from the Jews. It got nothing to do with any God.
Yes, sir.
And the better we deal with it, then, and if you could name any work prior to the Jewish writers at the Sanhedrin, name any source where Adam and Eve is mentioned or Jehovah is mentioned before the Jews, please let me know. And if you do, I will join any movement you want. I would even join Tammy and the 700 or 600 Club.
I hear that.
And if you know it, say no, oh, Professor, hold your peace. Amen. Now, that one is clear. The second is Christianity. Prior to 1978 years ago, there was never a person called Jesus or Joshua Christus. Jesus the Anointed. The Greeks called it Joshua Christus. Christos. Jesus be anointed. There's nobody named Christ. Nonsense. Christus, the word Christ comes from the Greek word. Christus means to be anointed. And to anoint is to take some oil, sweet unguent, and rub your child's face and wish him good luck on the road to some journey. So nobody named Jesus took on the journey. But after years from the Nicene Conference of Bishops, that title has changed until it becomes the surname of a person called Jesus. And that isn't before 1978 years ago. If anybody could tell me and show me any literature at all with the name Jesus before that time, speak it out now. Whether you're a reverend, minister, pope, or anything else. Show me. And don't tell me that when the Jewish God said, let us make men, he was talking to Jesus. How can talk to Jesus? Mary ain't born yet. and the Jewish God cannot say to another man, let us make men. You mean let us make AIDS? If a man will tell another man, let us make AIDS, the only thing could come out of that is AIDS.
I hear that.
No, there's a possibility if he said to a woman, let us make a man. Sure, there's a possibility of a man coming out of it, at least a little man. I have to get these things clear so that we understand each other before I proceed further. Now that's Jehovah taken care of, and Jesus has taken care of. Now let me get to Allah. Now, all I'm talking there, nobody named Muhammad is born yet. When Jesus is supposed to be born, Muhammad isn't born yet. When Abraham is supposed to be born, Jesus Muhammad isn't born yet. Now let me get to Muhammad. And if any imam is included, the best one in Mecca, no difference, and this, let him talk up, because he hasn't spoken yet. Muhammad ibn Abdullah was born around 570 of the Common Era, which would be equivalent to 622 of the Common Era. So it's 1,000 odd years, 1,200 odd years ago. Whether you said he went up in a cloud, whether 15 archangels dropped a Quran in his hand, even though he couldn't read and write, I don't know where he could drop in his hand, why he couldn't read it. He doesn't know what the angel is telling him. You got to get somebody else to read it because he was illiterate in his own language.
Yes, sir.
Now, again, the same thing. If anybody know anything to the difference, speak up or hold your peace. Now let us go, since we got the earliest of these so-called three inspired religions is the one of Judaism. What does the African people have before the birth of the first person of these three religions? Before the name of the first God of these three religions? Well, we said Abraham is born around 1675 before the Christian era. That is at the time when the Africans along the Nile is in the 13th dynastic period.
Right.
Not the Africans are interested in that dynasty, the 13th. The dynastic period is not measuring the first time the African is on the scene, because nobody knows when was the first time he got on the scene. Because when you're talking about Adam and Eve 6,000 years ago, above 6,000 ago, that's nonsense. That's child play. Because we don't have no part of Adam or Eve, no bones, no nothing, but when we could go to the Crichton Museum and see in that museum a part of the head of Zimbabwe Boise, 1.7 million years old. And we could go to Ethiopia and see another part of Lucy, 3.2 million years old. Now you're talking about some damn Adam at 6,000 years old. And I'm talking about two African people, 3 million years old and 1.7 million years old. And you still stamping in some church for some damn Adam and Eve. I know it's going to hurt you, but then that's what I want. Because you will probably do some thinking.
All right, family, that was a clip from Dr. Ben-Jochannan, and he went into a brief chronology and outline of Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, comparatively speaking to the African way, especially when we're talking about the ancient Nile Valley civilization, pretty much how it existed prior to the European invasion. Let's go to, let's see here. I'm going to read an article from compellingtruth.org. Unfortunately, I can't see the author, or it doesn't look like, it doesn't look like an author is assigned to this particular, because it's some type of blog of some sort. But anyway, let me go read it to you. The title of the article is "There a Difference Between Religion and Spirituality?" Religion and spirituality are two related yet distinct terms associated with faith. Religion denotes, quote, a set of beliefs concerning the cause, nature, and purpose of the universe, usually involving devotional and ritual observances and a moral code, unquote. In contrast, spirituality can be defined as, quote, the quality of being spiritual, unquote. Both definitions adapted from dictionary.com. Based on these definitions, the major difference between religion and spirituality is one of believing versus being. Religion's focus is the content of one's belief and the outworking of that belief. Spirituality's focus is the process of becoming more attuned to unworldly affairs. It's possible to be religious without being spiritual, and it's spiritual without being religious. A religious person accepts a certain set of beliefs as true and observes a certain set of rituals. A person of the Christian religion believes Jesus is God's Son and observes baptism and communion. A person of the Muslim religion believes Allah is God and observes Ramadan and Salat. In contrast, spirituality is the fact of being spiritual and is usually evidenced by the fact of doing spiritual things. Praying, meditating, reading scripture, and giving to a charity are all things that a, quote, spiritual, unquote, person might do. Spirituality is more abstract than religion. Religion usually promotes a creed and has a defined code of ethics. It is tangible. Spirituality exists in the nebulous realm of the undefinable. Because of this, an increasing number of people in postmodern Western culture view spirituality as good and religion as bad. Ambiguity is, quote, in, unquote, today. Dogmatism is, quote, out, unquote. Yet neither spirituality nor religion is inherently good or bad. The practice of religion may lead to good, the founding of Christian hospitals, or to the evil, the mass suicide in Jonestown. Likewise, one person may claim that feeding the poor is a spiritual act, while someone else claims that murder is a spiritual act. the article goes on for about another couple of paragraphs, and let's see how much time we got. Okay. So there you have a brief definition of what religion is and what spirituality is. In my humble opinion, it's up to you who you pray to, what you pray to. That's totally a person's own individual level of understanding, level of acceptance, and a level of awareness about who they are on their own path. I mean, you could be a person that, quote unquote, doesn't believe in a so-called higher power, a God, Allah, Yahweh, however or whatever you call a Yahshua, or it's totally up to you. Each person, may they be man or woman, has that right to believe in whatever they want to believe. But I think the thing, especially for descendants of African people and other so-called people of color or non-white people, what we must understand, and this is something that I must point out, is, and this is what I just suggest, from here on, you really need to do your own research, historical research, as Dr. Ben was saying, before jumping into anything. Unlike myself, I went in because my parents said, "Oh, we're going to go to church," and so you're a Christian. Oh, okay, I guess I'm a Christian, and then I moved on to Islam. I didn't ever do Judaism because I did my research and said, "Oh, these three are pretty much the same." And so then I kind of went on my own path, and I'm still on that path. I'm still learning. I'm still a student of life. Am I spiritual? I guess. Am I religious? Probably not, based on what religion is. Just trying to find a method good for me, and you should find a method good for you. But the one thing another thing that I must state is that you have to look at the time period of started first in terms of cultural perspective and cultural civilizations. You can do your own research. I highly suggest doing your own research. But it's evident. The evidence is evident that so-called Egypt, the ancient Nile Valley civilization, brought spirituality to the world. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't other civilizations that existed before so-called Egypt, before so-called Ethiopia and Sudan. But we're talking about gathering thousands upon thousands of years information through nature, or the nature, based on a natural concept. And part of that natural concept is the human experience of our ancient ancestors. And within our experience, they were able to write on the walls in the papyrus of that experience through their level of understanding with nature, that being man, that being woman, and that being child, and that we look upon the woman as the guidance in the creation of human existence. Unfortunately, when it comes to Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, it's very chauvinistic. It has a very male-sided point of view, where, quote, African, unquote, spirituality tries to have a little bit more balance. Some people call it the yin and the yang. The, quote, black, unquote, white color spectrum. There's so many opposites out there that we can talk about in terms of nature, north, south, east, west. There's a balance there. And I think we've definitely lost that within the, quote, African, unquote, experience and paradigm. And I think once we get back to that, then we'll have a common ground beyond just saying, oh, this is what you look like, so I can identify with you. Once we get that, once we have that foundation, again, we could say, oh, okay, well, you're just a person just like me. You go to the bathroom just like me. It's not just about believing anymore. It's about knowing your culture. It's about knowing about nature, or trying to know about nature, and knowing about history and how these particular, quote, religions, unquote, came about. And so once a person does their due diligence, then it will be obvious to what steps they need to do for their own path. I think it's one thing to believe about something, and then it's one thing to know. So as our, wonderful ancient ancestors used to say, know thyself. It's pretty simple. But unfortunately, many of us don't want to go and look at that path. Once you see some of the spiritual systems, Mama Africa, then you see a lot of similarities in their level of understanding. I don't know, I may have said this before or not, but I'm the type of person that's like, look, with me, if you go to the continent of Africa, just, which I haven't been yet, but, one day I'm going to go back to Mama Africa, and just doing research, I could see a lot of the similarities. So I just say, pick a path, go learn it, pick anywhere you want to, just pick a path, and you'll see some commonality. All right, family, that's about it. So once again, I'll shade it, Dr. Ben. Live, learn, love, eat right, exercise, get some sun if you can, and just go teach. All right? We out. Peace.